Hi, and welcome to Homeschool Expert. I'm very glad you're here today to learn about how to build support for yourself into your homeschool lifestyle. Just as the FAA encourages parents to put on their own mask before helping others, so too in homeschooling we must proactively consider how to support ourselves as parent-teachers so we can continue to offer our best to our children. Some of the points we will discuss are how to balance being a full-time parent with a full-time teacher, what to include in your routine to nourish yourself so you can continue to nurture your child, what indicators to look for that you need a change of pace, how to make space to continue to develop yourself and model life learning, and how to design your life so you can positively impact how your children will one day design theirs. When we support ourselves, we support our family too. So grab your favorite beverage and toast yourself as we launch into this core lesson on supporting the teacher at home. Let's get started. This is a special lesson for me, and I'm excited you're with me today. Over the years, I've been greatly encouraged by doing life together with other homeschool friends and learning from each other's experiences. It's been mutually supportive, encouraging, and life-giving. Today, I'm going to pass along to you a collection of some of the personal lessons we've learned together over the years about how to develop a balanced approach to homeschooling as parent-teachers. There are 5 significant ways to make homeschooling life-giving for you. However, before we dive in, let's remember that yours is not mine. There is something about homeschooling that lends itself to examining the workings of our marriages and homes with a microscope. We then compare it to someone else's, looking for all the ways we think we should be doing it differently. I encourage you to recognize that this tendency exists and to lean against it. How your household makes homeschooling life work will likely look different than mine. So in all of these suggestions, please hear them for what they are, suggestions, and find a way to adapt the principle to meet your situation. The first category is to look for ways to share duties between parents. Whether you are married or separated, parents have found ways to share homeschool duties, such as dividing up subject content where one spouse takes science and math and the other covers history, literature, and reading. Or one spouse teaches the content and the other proctors quizzes and tests. Oftentimes, families who are separated choose a public homeschooling model to make accountability between homes possible. It may be in your household that one parent plans to absorb the full teacher role, and in that case, hopefully the other parent will be able to find creative ways to provide support, such as taking on some of the evening meal prep. Even if your spouse is not able to share any of the load, you can adapt these principles of looking for ways to help within your community. For situations where both spouses have time to be involved in the process, there are creative ways to share duties. For example, my husband has developed a dinner quiz game with age-appropriate questions about math, history, first aid, and other fun topics that reinforce for our kids that learning is something we do all the time. They beg for these games at dinner, and it has the positive byproduct of motivating them to work harder during the school day so they can win the game time with Dad. The second category is to look for ways to make time for you. When our 4 kids were under the age of 8, my husband decided to bless me with the gift of night errands. After dinner, he would clean up kids and kitchen and get them all to bed while I went out to grocery shop and run errands alone. Not only did I not have to contend with traffic, I was able to take my time and get some breathing space at the end of the day. Sometimes I joked it was retail therapy. My husband was also generous to set aside an evening even when he was really busy with work so I could have Anne's night out. It was an evening to do whatever I wanted. Take an evening hike, grab dinner with friends, or read at the library. Sometimes he had to fairly shove me out the door because I had mom mode turned on so high, but he was right to do it, and it was hugely beneficial to me. A second way to make time for yourself is developing a quiet hour into your routine when school is done and afternoon activities have not yet started. While our family loves being together, it's good to take a break from each other. Consider blocking out an hour daily or even a few days a week where each child relaxes alone in an area of the house or their room quietly, reading, resting, or doing something off screen. A third way is in fostering our interests. With so much of our day consumed by putting on everyone else's mask, it's important to make time for our own, even in this simple area. It's important to our mental health and sense of self that we maintain a life, even if it's a small one for a season, outside of being parent-teacher. It could be a hobby, craft, collection, or sport. For me, it's writing poetry, archery, which I call dangerous yoga, and crochet, which I like to joke is me tapping into my inner 80-year-old. Fourthly, some families have built categories into their budget for camp week or weekend away. Camp Week is when parents select a week or more in the summer to enroll all the kids, including preschoolers, into some kind of day camp so the parents can use that week to reflect, refocus, and plan for the fall. Similarly, weekend away is an important time for parents as a couple or individually to take a night or two away to recharge. These are just a start to creative ways you can support yourself so that you continue to give your best to your student. The third category is to get help. At some point, all of us need to ask for help, all of us. It's totally understandable that we may not remember from high school how to explain sine and cosine functions, or that we simply feel worn out from being everyone's everything. It might be that you want to use this list as a way of preventing burnout, which would be a great strategy. But if you're considering this list because you are in a time of need, be encouraged, knowing that you're not alone. Sometimes indicators of needing help are straightforward, like needing to outsource a subject area, like computer programming or Latin that we might not know much about. Other indicators are less obvious, such as sleeping poorly, feeling worn down or regularly bothered by life, blue, having a significant change in appetite, or feeling like we are no longer enjoying our kids. These are not signs that we are a bad parent. They are signs we need help or support, potentially a change in our schedule somewhere. If you find yourself in that place, the first step is to look for ways to outsource. If you have the means to do so, I encourage you to outsource work such as house cleaning, errands, or shuttling kids. Or consider outsourcing a few of your child's classes to an online academy to give yourself some breathing room as teacher for a time. Some parents outsource help by simply hiring a teen helper inexpensively to come in an afternoon or two a week and play with the littles so the parents can get projects done at home. A second step is to brainstorm creative childcare options to give the parent-teacher a break. Some are more commonly practiced, like kid swaps, where you arrange with another family to take turns hosting your kids and theirs once a week so they can return the favor. Others are a colorful variation on that, such as summer swap, where 3 families come together and each host all the kids for 2 afternoons during the summer, giving the rest of the parents 4 other afternoons off. Some parents have merged their childcare budget with their school budget by hiring a babysitter to play with their child 2 to 3 times a week, starting in the preschool years, with the understanding she will speak only a foreign language while playing. This both exposes their child to that language through immersion and gives the parents some time away. Sometimes extended relatives live in town, and it's a great idea to plan special play dates at Auntie's house to give mom or dad an afternoon to catch up. A third place to get help is to go back to the Quick Start Guide and consider ways to simplify or shuffle your schedule using weekends, evenings, or summers in creative ways to balance what life requires of you. As you consider putting some of these helps into place, take a moment to reassess and ask yourself the hard questions. What is fundamentally life-giving to me, and how can I build more of that into my week? What is energy draining that I dread every week, and is there a way I can modify that somehow? Finally, if you are a family with more than one child, I encourage you to consider your eldest. Sometimes in busy households, we lean on our eldest child as a live-in sitter or a parent in training. Certainly there are times for all our children to be active members serving the team, but be aware of yourself as much as you can to see if you're placing more parenting burden than is healthy on your eldest child to manage the younger siblings. A fourth way to model boundaries is to plan healthy meals in advance. I make it a goal during the school year to have dinner figured out by breakfast, and to have a dinner plan for the week before the week begins. That way, I don't have to think about what's in my pantry I can throw together at the last minute during what turns out to be the busiest part of my day. Fifth, we must look for ways to grow ourselves. I recognize large chunks of time may not be possible in every season, especially if you're saving their lives every 2 minutes, but keep it on your radar for the near future. Remember that there is life beyond children. To the extent you can maintain even a piece of that, whether it's reading a novel in the evenings or kayaking on the weekend, prioritize it. It's good not only for us, but for our kids to see us valuing time for ourselves outside of our role as parents. The seventh suggestion for modeling boundaries is to develop friends for yourself as opposed to just spending time with parents of kids your children like. Look to develop friend groups both in and out of the homeschool community. It's refreshing to spend time with adults who don't want to talk about curriculum, managing chores around lunch, and balancing siblings during reading time. That said, it is also incredibly meaningful to reach out to other homeschool parents and grab coffee, especially if it's a parent with older kids or who has been homeschooling longer than you have so you can learn from them. Finally, in considering how to survive and thrive as a family and individually while homeschooling, reassess your budget. Look for creative ways to minimize so you can bless yourself in more meaningful ways elsewhere. For instance, since you're home more often as parent-teacher, is there a way to reduce your cellular plan or maybe your kids and save every month? Is it possible to buy yourself an awesome coffee thermos so you don't spend big bucks on caffeine refills in the afternoon when you're out shuttling kids? There are also less demands for style on the budget, whether it's name brands or the latest widget when our kids are homeschooled, and that helps. A final suggestion is to minimize meals. Now that you're home more often during the day, you can make use of the crock pot rather than buying pre-made meals or takeout. Once you have found some creative ways to save, look for creative ways to spend. This is the fun part. This is where you can potentially look at adding in professional house cleaners once a month, shuttling help, or errand runners to lighten your load. This is where you can set aside money for date nights or a weekend away with your spouse. It's crucial to prioritize that relationship so that we're not always in parent mode, forgetting how we became parents in the first place. This is where you can potentially find ways to hire an inexpensive teen helper or create other child care coverage opportunities. If cutting back on coffee runs means camp week happens, it is worth it. We are all a product of our minds, bodies, emotions, and souls. It is so important that we intentionally look for ways to foster our own growth and health, not only so we can love and serve our families well, but so we can love ourselves and model healthy habits for our children. I consider it a privilege to have been invited into your home and family to join you on your homeschool journey. Thank you. I mean that as sincerely as I can express it through a lens. It has been a dream of mine for years to find a way to equip families everywhere with educational options to meet their children's needs. I hope today's resources will equip you not only to be a better parent-teacher, but to be better to yourself, modeling for your children healthy boundaries, how to find outside help, and how to think creatively around an obstacle or difficult situation. By nature, homeschooling means we are all always learning. Remember to have grace for yourself in this journey. None of us gets it right every time. None of us is meant to do it alone, and we are here to help. Thanks for joining me on Homeschool Expert. See you next time.